In a single day, somewhere between 49 and 60,000 people stormed across the border into a tiny Spanish city of 80,000. That's more than half of the population of the entire city, crossing in under 24 hours. Around 8,000 of them were children. Dozens of them died in the water. Spain declared a state of emergency, deployed the military, sent divers to pull bodies out of the sea. Prime Minister called it an attack on Spain's territorial integrity. An attack. That's the word the head of the Spanish government used. And within hours, the internet split into three camps, all pointing at three different villains. One says it's Morocco using human beings as a weapon. One says it's Spain's own open border policies coming home. And a third, including a sitting Spanish government minister and Israel's own ambassador to the UN trading shots on X/Twitter, turned it into something nobody saw coming. Tonight I'm going to tell you who's right. I'm going to show you exactly what each of them said on the record and let you turn the pages for yourself, because this one's got a body count and everybody's got a story. I'm Ethan Page. Let's turn the pages. All right, so let me lay out some groundwork, some key facts, things that everybody will agree on, because pretty much immediately after this is where everybody starts to disagree. The place is called Ceuta, or Ceuta. It's a tiny Spanish city, yes, Spanish, sitting on the northern coast of Morocco in Africa. Now, I'm not going to get into the history of this place and all of that, because that's hours of world history right there. Along with another place called Melilla, it's one of only two land borders between the entire European Union and the continent of Africa. So it's a pressure point, unlike anywhere else on Earth. July 30th into the July 31st, this year, 2026, the border broke. Spanish officials estimate between 49 and 60,000 people crossed from Morocco into Ceuta in a matter of hours, many swimming around the border barriers, using inner tubes, some forcing through the land crossings. To put that into perspective, like we did on the intro, the population's total amount is about 83,000. So in one day, the equivalent of anywhere between 50 and 80% of the population just came in. The human cost, of course, reports of somewhere between 19 and 41 people are dead trying to make the crossing. Around 8,000 of the kids, 8,000 of the people that crossed were kids. Now, with 60,000 people, 8,000 of them being kids and doesn't drown in one day into a city smaller than a lot of American suburbs. Whatever you believe caused this, please hold on to the human reality of it first. It's not a statistic. That's thousands of desperate people and dead children in the water off of a beach. Everybody in this story is about to use those bodies to score a political point. I want you to remember that they were people before we get into who's pointing at who. Spain's response was actually pretty massive. They declared a state of emergency, military units were deployed, naval and air assets. Diving teams are patrolling still the coast in a rapid reversal by midday on the 31st. Spain had more than 25,000 units. That's different statistic. Spain had said that more than 25,000 had been returned to Morocco, eventually over 48,000. So they did a pretty good job of this, but that means there's still upwards of 10,000 people that are still in their small little city. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez went to Ceuta himself, called it an attack on Spain's territorial integrity, and blamed human trafficking gangs. Human trafficking has a very, 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 very interesting world history. Very interesting world history with human trafficking. Again, not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. I'll sprinkle some stuff for you, though. The slave trade to the United States, it wasn't really just white people that caused that. And it wasn't just black people either. I want to state that out loud. It was a tiny little country that didn't exist yet in the Middle East that had a lot to do with this. Because I'm just going to cut to the chase. Your average white guy in the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s couldn't afford that lifestyle to own another person. I don't want to be rude here and insensitive, but that's what that is. It was owning another person. The average white person could not afford that. The average Jewish person definitely could. And there's scientific backing behind that too. Financial literacy amongst Jewish people is ridiculously good. So anyways, back to the point. there's some Israeli connections here. If you haven't got the topic of today's episode, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to chapter 2 real quick. Villain number 1. This is the documented one. Now, before we even go into the conspiracy itself, I just want to pull up Morocco's flag. Can we pull up Morocco's flag? Now, here's what it is today. It's a 5-star. It was there it is. It was turned into a 5-star. It used to be a 6-star. During World War I, they changed it. Now, why was it ever the 6-star, which is the Star of David? That's a Jewish symbol, right? And it is. That's not conjecture. That's not conspiracy. That's not anti-Semitism. That's none of that. None of that. Jewish people identify with the Star of David. That's always been that way. Well, not always, actually, but that's besides the point. So why was Morocco, a country in North Africa, Northwest Africa, I should say, not Northeast Africa, right? If it was Egypt and it had a Jewish flag, I wouldn't be too surprised because Egypt is literally right next to Israel. Maybe there's some history there, right? Why is Morocco the Star of David 100 years ago? Why did that happen? Was there maybe some influence in the region? Was there maybe some control in the region before Morocco had its own sovereignty? I don't know. I'm asking questions. All right. Now back to my script, because of course I write a script because I always go off of it. Now, who opened the gates? There's video of this too. Let me see if I can pull this up. Who opened the gates? The first answer, and the one with the most evidence behind it, of course, is Moroccan government, or is the Moroccan government. Here's why it's not a conspiracy theory, because they've done it before on the record and everybody knows it. Now, flashback to May 2021, same city. More than 8,000 people, some say reports up to 10,000, suddenly poured across the border. Why? Because Moroccan border forces, in the words of the reporting at the time, appeared to lose control and looked the other way. Direct quote. The timing wasn't random. It happened during a diplomatic fight between Spain and Morocco. Spain had let the leader of the Western Sahara independence movement, a group that Morocco considers its enemy, get hospital treatment in Spain for COVID. Morocco was furious. The 2021 border opening was widely seen as a punitive move by Rabat. Rabat meaning Morocco's capital. And plain English, Morocco flooded the gates to punish Spain for a diplomatic insult. They used human beings as a pressure tactic against another government. That's what weaponized migration means, and it's a real documented tool of statecraft. You don't send troops, you don't fire a shot, you just quietly tell your border guards to look the other way for 24 to 48 hours. And you let a flood of desperate people become the weapon aimed at your rival's territory. Morocco did it in Spain in 2021, openly enough that it was reported worldwide. So when it happens again in 2026, the first question any honest person asks, did Rabat open the gates again? Now, I want to see if I can find that video, because that was a cool little talking point here, but look at this. Oh, never mind. I probably shouldn't show that. Yeah, that's a guy he's getting killed on the video. Let me see if I can pause it real quick. No, pause. There we go, so I can at least go by. This guy right here is not going to be alive in a few moments, but anyway, I wonder if they scrubbed it. Dude, there's literally a video There it is. Boom. I want everybody to see this video before the internet gets rid of it. Oh. I don't know if my screen share is actually working. Okay. Yeah. The audio's not working, which is fine. It's not really necessary here. I'm more just thinking in my head for when I film the rest of this episode. As always, it's 6 in the morning. I'm doing this before work kind of thing. But I don't have as much time to troubleshoot right now. So, anyways, to develop the context here, you can see this. These are Moroccan police officers literally opening up truckloads of these men. Tell me how many women and children are in this video. Whole lot of women and kids, right? And I'm just here to document. I just want you guys to see this stuff. So that's a Moroccan police officer, clear as day. Actually, that might even be military, but you can even see it. Look at this. People online think the exact same thing as I do. You'll see it on Twitter more than you'll see it on other social medias because other social medias are flatly censored. So is Twitter too. I watch people get censored on Twitter all the time. So if you think this Twitter is super free, it's not. I've even had my own posts on Twitter get censored. But then again, guys, I mean, it's me. I've been censored off of literally every platform. So there's that. There's that. And the funniest part is that I'm just a regular 9 to 5 Jewish American male. There is nothing crazy about me that other people don't also feel. I just say it out loud, I guess. But yeah, they got my ass on a lot of social medias. So yeah, that's one little post from Twitter. We're gonna go back to Twitter today. There's a lot of evidence there. That's gonna be pretty crazy. Now here's the 2026 evidence that is the same playbook. The New York Times reported that several migrants at the scene said Moroccan police urged them to cross. Of course, I provided video evidence of that, so there's nobody that can say that that didn't happen. One migrant recalled officers essentially telling them to go. Migrants also said that they flocked to the border after seeing social media posts calling for people to gather there. What? Who made the social media posts? Who pushed those? Who promoted those? As you know, the algorithm is not organic. We know that. The algorithm promotes who it wants to promote. Like this Nick Shirley kid who's doing all the fraud videos. Dude, he's a Fed. He's a Fed. He's a big time Fed. He's a Fed on the Republican side, but he's still a Fed. A Fed is a Fed. Like, just so you guys are aware, a federal agent will kill your dog. They will kill your dog if they think that you've committed a crime. Just get that out loud. Get it out. Let's state it. Let's get on the same page. They will shoot your dog in the face if they think that you've committed a crime. So, yeah. I don't support them, no matter what side of the aisle they're on. Now, the current backdrop, tension between Spain and Morocco, and the ever-present Western Sahara dispute. Same structure as 5 years ago. So the most documented version is honestly the least exciting one, but it's the most solid. This makes Morocco look like it's running the 2021 playbook again. Police reportedly are nudging people across, diplomatic grievances in the background, and a flood of humanity uses leverage. If you want that version with the most receipts, that's it. But that's not the version that's blowing up the internet. That one is the one that we have to talk about carefully. Now we have chapter 3, which is Spain itself. Of course, don't worry, I've got the Israel discourse, but that's chapter 4. Chapter 3 is Villain 2, Spain. And the second theory comes from Spain's own political right, and it points a finger inward at the Spanish government itself. There's a legal trigger here, and it is real. On June 29th, 2026, 1 month before the crisis, Spain's Supreme Court ruled that authorities could no longer do hot returns. summarily sending migrants back who arrived by sea without due process. Spain's own interior ministry says human smuggling networks exploited that ruling to encourage the surge. Essentially, the word went out that if you reach the water, they can't just send you straight back. Spain's far right Vox Party leader, Santiago Abascal, went further and accused Prime Minister Sanchez of practically orchestrating the invasion himself to stay in power. Other parties called that framing reckless and drew a line between border security and the humanitarian duty owed to migrants, especially the children. I'm just going to say the quiet part out loud. The official statistic is 8,000 kids. I've watched dozens and dozens of video. I mean, if you want me to do right hand of God type thing, like if you want me to swear on my religion, yeah, there's probably a couple kids in there. I couldn't even count 100. Couldn't even count 100 kids. And I would even say I couldn't even count 100 kids plus women combined. I mean, you saw that. What was it, like a dump truck maybe? You saw that dump truck. It had over 100 men in it. Not a single woman or child. This is just the official narrative, the official numbers. And we always know, we know that humanitarian crises are ripe for child trafficking. We know that. It's been shown with Haiti, shown with Venezuela, shown in the Philippines and Indonesia. I mean, anytime there's a humanitarian crisis, kids go missing. And it's sad. It makes me sick. It's part of the reason why I do this podcast. So yeah, they always say that they owe a duty to the migrants, especially the kids. But where are the kids? So this camp says, don't look at Morocco, look at Madrid. A court ruling made returns harder. Smugglers pounced, and a government that critics say is soft on borders left the door open. And Europe noticed. Right-wing leaders in Italy, Finland, and Austria are now calling for Spain to be temporarily kicked out of the Schengen open travel zone, saying Spain can't hold the EU's border. That's a real political earthquake, by the way. Whatever you think of the framing or who caused it. Now notice something. Camp 1 blames Morocco. Camp 2 blames Spain. Both of those have documented evidence behind them. And honestly, they're not even mutually exclusive. Morocco could open the gate and Spain's court ruling could make it worse at the same time. But neither of those is the theory that's setting the internet on fire right now. For that, we have to go to the third camp. And I am going to be careful here because this is where fact and speculation get tangled together pretty quick, as it always is. And before I even say, chapter 4, Israel, right? Anytime this country is brought up or anytime people are brought up, there's a big, loud crowd of 80 IQ individuals that just love to get neo-Nazi about it and say, it's all Jew, That's... it's really making the discourse struggle to grow because everybody thinks that any criticism is just anti-Semitism, and obviously that's not the truth. So with that lens, of course, that we're looking through, let's look at Israel because, again, why is Morocco's flag? Why is it formerly the Star of David? Why do they have so much tie with modern state Israel? There's a lot going on. So anyways, chapter 4, Israel. Okay, here's where a border crisis in Africa somehow became a fight about the Middle East. And I'm going to be surgical about this. I'm going to separate what people actually said, which is documented and wild, from what people are guessing, which is not proven. Keep those two buckets separate in your head the whole time. First, the bucket of things that actually verifiably happened on record. Here, I'm going to try to pull this up while I'm talking about it. As Spain declared its state of emergency, Israel's ambassador, I'm going to pull this up because of course, Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Danon, shitty name, there's my bad word, posted on X, publicly taunting Spain. His own words, quote, Spain, which never misses an opportunity to lecture Israel, has declared a state of emergency in Ceuta, following the crisis over its immigration policy. Maybe before it continues lecturing us, it's time it explained to the world why it still maintains colonial enclaves in Africa. Very interesting. Very, 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 very interesting. So you have an ambassador to Israel literally taunting an entire country where people are dying actively, publicly needling them in the middle of people still dying. Again, I just want to double down on that because that's a little bit weird. Odd take to have. If you were just a guy like me, I'm just a guy, right? If I'm just a guy and I say some crap on Twitter, you kind of expect it. I'm just a guy. When you're wearing a suit and tie for a living and you represent an entire country, I just don't feel like that's acceptable behavior. That's just me. Now that's not a conspiracy account. I just showed it to you. That's the sitting Israeli ambassador to the UN on his official platform, essentially dunking on Spain while the bodies are still being counted. Now, mocking somebody's crisis is not the same as causing it. I want you to hold on to that. But you can see how a comment like that, from a figure like that, at a moment like that, pours gasoline on every conspiracy theory that's already out there. And then it escalated because a Spanish government official fired back and arguably made it worse. Same thing. I'm just trying to pull it up here. His name is Oscar Puente. Okay. Took me a second to find it. But he retweets Danny and says, well, things are starting to get pretty clear. Cryptic and suggestive. From a member of the actual Spanish government. Now, read what just happened there. A member of Spain's cabinet took Israel's ambassador's taunt and replied, things are starting to become clear. Strongly implying that he thinks Israel had something to do with it. That's not some anonymous poster. That's the Spanish government minister publicly floating the idea that a foreign country was behind a migrant crisis. When a sitting minister says it, it stops being a fringe theory and becomes a diplomatic incident. It got big enough that Israel had to walk it back. Israel's I'm gonna mess this up. It's like charge d'affaires. I think that means in charge of foreign affairs. Dana Ehrlich. We're gonna pull up Dana Ehrlich because I don't know how to pronounce your job title. There it is. So she's the former ambassador of Israel to Ireland. And it looks like she currently is head of mission at the Israeli embassy in Spain. So there you go. I don't speak romantic languages very well. I speak a little Spanish, but not enough to get my my job for it. You know what I mean? Like I can't say I'm bilingual or whatever. Anyways, works head of mission at the Israeli embassy in Spain. Dana Ehrlich publicly distanced the country from Danon's comment, saying it, quote, does not represent the position of the state of Israel. Meanwhile, American commentator Candace Owens, we love her, she amplified a 7-year-old post from Yair Netanyahu, Benjamin Netanyahu's son, where he'd written years ago about Spain, Ceuta, Melilla, and NGOs. People are passing that old post around as supposed proof. Now, I'm also going to pull up the post because, I mean, I think in the spirit of everything, we should probably just let you read it for yourself. Now, it is a years old social media post. Oh, wow. Did she delete it? Hold on. I'm literally going through her. Hold on. I thought I bookmarked this. Did I bookmark this? Oh my gosh. I think it's gone. Let me go to Yair Netanyahu's account and see if I can find the original post. Okay. So I found the original post. I think Candace deleted the post, which very interesting. Very interesting. I think it's because she's actively getting sued by everybody as it is. She doesn't want to get another lawsuit. I can't find the repost at time of recording. And in my defense, I literally just I keyword searched on her account, Suda, NGOs, etc., and it didn't pop up. But here you go. You know, my Twitter, you can see it right here. I literally searched it, NGOs, Suda. Here's where it is. Yair Netanyahu said, "Let's make a deal." Let's make a deal. Oh. Okay, Yair, son of literal leader of Israel. He says, let's make a deal. We won't fund NGOs, non-government organizations, in your country calling you to give away Suda and Malia, and you will stop funding NGOs in our countries that calls us to give away Judea and Samaria. Oh. So, what's that? What's that? What is that? I want that to be digested for a moment. And you know what's hilarious? Yair is backpedaling and saying, here we go. I see that anti-Semitic conspiracy theorists are using this tweet from 2019 as proof for their absurd blood libels against Jews and Israel. This is absurd. Here's the original tweet, which just shows the thread that I already showed. A couple of things. Let's unpack a lot of things. One, blood libel is the conspiracy that Jews are killing non-Jews to sacrifice for God to essentially bring about their Messiah. Who was Jesus, by the way? Jesus was your Messiah, and it's written in the Old Testament. All you have to do is look at it. Anyways, I don't remember any of these tweets or conspiracy theorists saying that non-Jews were being murdered because of this. We just called it a migrant crisis. So why did he jump down that hole? Why is he jumping and saying, we're not killing non-Jews? Right? Why did he do that? Keynote 1. Keynote 2. Judea and Samaria, even in biblical times, did not get along. Even in biblical times, were not aligned. Judea, Samaria, I mean, the 12 tribes of Israel, and the 12 tribes of Israel just meaning the 12 kids and descendants of Jacob, because that's what Israel is. Open your Bible, read your textbooks. Come on. The descendants of Jacob didn't actually all agree on much. They were family, right? That's all it is. They all had their own belief systems, their own cultures, their own customs. There's a reason the story is of the Good Samaritan, right? Because historically those people didn't get along. They call it the Good Samaritan because from their perspective, there weren't any good Samaritans. They were all mean to them. They were rude. You see where I'm going with that? So Yair's trying to do this whole big Israel, greater Israel project, which has been a stated goal of Netanyahu for decades. His father, not him. It's been a stated goal of Netanyahu for decades. And he's trying to do the big Israel project. But Judea, Samaria, and Israel never actually been under one government, if you will. I don't know if I'd call it a government or countryhood. They haven't been under the same place together for thousands of years. Now, back to the topic. The second bucket is the speculation. I'm going to be dead honest with you guys about it. The theory blazing across social media, across Spanish social media, is that Israel, and in some versions the United States, engineered this crisis to punish Spain because Spain's government under Sanchez, has been one of the loudest critics of Israel's war in Gaza. And Spain recognized a Palestinian state. The motive people point to is retaliation. And I have to tell you straight, there's no proof of that. None. What there is a real documented diplomatic slap fight. Spanish minister hinting at it, Israeli figures openly mocking Spain, and a population primed to connect the dots. That's not quite the same as orchestration, but I would be lying if I told you that the dots weren't sitting right there, and I'm not going to insult you by pretending people aren't drawing lines between them. So here's where I land honestly on the Israel angle, and I want it on the record. Did Israel open the Suda border? I don't have any evidence for that, and the actual mechanics point to Morocco. But what's the history of Morocco? What's the history of their government? I'm going to ask those questions. Did prominent Israeli officials publicly celebrate and taunt Spain over a humanitarian disaster the moment it happened? Yes. On the record, undeniably. Those are two completely different claims, and the media is blurring them in both directions, like I said they would at the start. One side pretending the taunting didn't happen. The other side pretending the taunting is proof of a plot. I'm showing you both buckets and letting you keep them straight. That, in my opinion, is the whole job. Chapter 5. This is why it matters for you. So why should you, wherever you're watching from, care about a border crisis in a city that you've never heard of until tonight? Because this is the template for the next 20 years of geopolitics. Not tanks, not missiles, people. Desperate human beings moved like chess pieces, used as pressure against a rival government. Morocco engineered it against Spain. Belarus did it against Poland. I always butcher that. Is it Belarus? I don't know how you pronounce that one. I'm so bad at that one. Anyways, they did it to Poland. Now, it works because the target country can't shoot. These are unarmed families and children, so they're paralyzed. Now, interestingly, the Holocaust, which is yet another thing involving future Israeli people and Jewish people, interestingly enough, the Holocaust set that tone. When the Allies came in, and your grandpa's going to hate hearing this, but he needs to hear this. When the Allies came in, they actually had no desire to help the Holocaust victims. They had no desire to free the literal slaves that were going on. And you can hear this. I mean, you can look at General Patton, what is his name? George Patton. Look up his quote on your own time. But he, long story short, he basically said we should have fought with Hitler, not against him. He said the communists were the bad guys and not the fascists, which I won't say that Hitler was right because that's a far-fetched statement to make. But like I've stated publicly before, communists killed more than fascists. Stalin, Pol Pot, Mao Zedong, they killed way more than Hitler and Benito Mussolini. It's just a fact. There's no denying that. You cannot deny statistical, factual evidence. Okay? You really can't. But yeah. Why is it that when the Holocaust did happen, it took us years before allies actually tried to stop it? The Holocaust, depending on who you ask, it started between 1932 and 1933. We didn't get involved until the 40s, and we only got involved because Pearl Harbor was attacked, which we let happen, by the way. We literally had express foreknowledge of the attack, and we let it happen so we could fight Japan, not Germany. We didn't fight Germany until we found out that they were allies with Japan, which we also knew ahead of time, but we had to play dumb about because of geopolitics and blah, 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 blah. Your grandpa's going to hate hearing that, but we were not the good guys in World War II until the very, very, very end. Literally. For a very long part of World War II, we pretended that nothing bad was happening, and that if it was happening, it wasn't our job to fix it. So I do believe context is important. The Holocaust is a big, big reason why you cannot just turn the other way whenever there's women and children involved, whenever there's unarmed families trying to flee tyranny. You have to act. You literally have to act. The Holocaust set that precedent. So very interestingly, Jewish history has a lot to do with this circumstance. It has a lot to do with the historical narrative of why we have to act. It has a lot to do with what's going on specifically in Spain and Morocco. It has a lot to do with the literal history of Morocco. It's got a lot to do with the literal leader and the leader's son of Israel taunting. I mean, there's a lot to go on here. But that's the thing I need you to take away. The moment something like this happens, everybody with an agenda races to make it about their thing. And the truth, which is usually boring and documented and sitting right there, gets buried under the version that's most exciting to be angry about. The most likely explanation here is the least sexy one. A government that's done this exact thing before did it again. But it probably wasn't Israel. But Morocco ran a diplomatic play doesn't trend. Israel and the U.S. engineered an invasion trends. And the gap between what's proven and what's viral is exactly the gap that they count on you never noticing. So be the person who keeps the bucket separate. What's confirmed? 60,000 people, dead and missing kids, Morocco's fingerprints, in a real diplomatic fight where Israeli officials taunted Spain and a Spanish minister hinted back. What's not confirmed, that anyone but Morocco engineered it. You can't hold all of that at once. You don't have to pick the most dramatic villain to be angry that thousands of people were used as a weapon and dozens died for it. That part, that's real no matter whose hand was on the gate. Now this is still unfolding. The returns are ongoing. The EU is still fighting about Schengen, the group between the two. The Spain-Israel diplomatic rift is widening, and the full picture of who did what is going to come out over weeks, not hours. So we keep watching, we keep the receipts, and we don't let anybody on any side sell us certainty that they have not earned. 60,000 people crossing in a day, children dying in the water, and the truth deserves much more than to be a hashtag. We'll keep turning the pages on this one as it develops. I'm Ethan Page. Let's turn the pages. Okay, now that it's just us, because, the normies, they left. They left as soon as that outro went away. But if you're still here, I want to show you something. This is Mossad International. Do you know who Mossad is? The Mossad is the CIA of Israel. You guys know who the CIA is? The 10-second history of the CIA, we've literally toppled entire world governments using the CIA. That's what they do. That's their job. The Mossad said the fall of Spain has begun. We never forget. We never forgive. And then here's the cool part. Look at their at Mossad Interpol. There's the name. What happened? What happened? Have a good one.